Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to First Cut. This is our review of Bad Education. Joining me today, we have RB3 and Sabrina. I want to talk about this movie. I actually texted you guys about this movie as I was watching it. I was like, hey, guys, we should probably do a review about this movie just because it's wild. It's a wild movie. It stars Hugh Jackman, and it has a lot to say. It's actually based on a true story, which makes it 10 times crazier, in my opinion. I was blown away by that fact. But going in, I didn't know anything about this movie. I didn't see the trailer. All I saw was the little poster. So when I finished the movie and I saw throughout the entire first act, second act, and third act of where it was going, I was kind of blown away, especially with the introduction of Hugh Jackman's character. Because at first, he's kind of a saint. And I was like, is this guy just a saint? Like, is this movie just about this like happy-go-lucky superintendent of a giant school? But it turns out that's not true. Either way, guys, I want to get your guys' opinions on this movie. Sabrina, you just finished it. I want to have your hot take right now.
Hot take. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I believe his name is Corey Finley. Has impressed me both with Thoroughbreds and this one. I think he's a really cool, interesting filmmaker to look out for. I don't know if he's done any other stuff I'd be familiar with, but I think I really enjoyed both. I love the performances. I love the ensemble. That was probably like my favorite part. Even a lot of the supporting cast who like weren't really in it for as long and stuff like that. I think they all kind of made a big splash. And of course, Hugh Jackman is incredible. I think not that I'm happy that he's not Wolverine anymore, but I'm happy that we can get performances like this out of him as well that kind of are like something different out of that, as much as I loved him as Wolverine. And yeah, Allison Jenny is always great in every single thing she does. Like, she could literally, you know what? I want her to be president. I want to vote. That's my hot take. I want Allison Jenny to be president because she is a baddie. I was going to say bad B, but I'm gonna censor myself, so I'll just say baddie. Even when she's playing somebody, even when she's playing this like unlikable character, I'm like, for some reason, I'm still drawn to her, and it's purely out of performance. And I do dislike her because of her performance, but for some reason, it's almost entrancing in a way. Like, not that I necessarily like her, but I am entranced by her performance. I'm entranced by her character, and same with Hugh Jackman. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
RB3.
No, the exact same way. I really dug this movie. Like you said, the performances really drove it. Hugh Jackman, Allison Jenny. Salute to Jimmy Taffert. Jimmy Taffert's in this movie. He plays the son, also named Jimmy. And in this movie. And I used to stand
every time I see that guy.
Yeah, no, he's actually he's a popular YouTuber, and he used to shoot at the same studio that Anthony shoots at. So I literally see him like every time. Like,
oh no way, is he cool?
He's super nice, super cordial. Like, yeah. No, he's really, really cool. But yeah, salute to him, and then salute to honestly even Alex Wolff. I'm not sure who's the young lady who played the young journalist. Yeah, but everybody in this movie kind of had like a really fun part. I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning, probably the first 20 minutes or so, I had no idea where this movie was going, and it kind of made it tough to like keep following because I was like, all right, tell me what was going on, what's going on. And then the whole plot about the money laundering and embezzlement kind of started to unravel itself, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And the deeper and deeper you go into it, the more fascinating it becomes. So yeah, I really dug it. I really enjoyed it. I believe it's right now, I think it's the front runner for the Emmy for best TV movie right now, and I think it totally deserves that.
Would it not be eligible for any Academy Award?
I don't think so. I think it's an HBO Films release. It was exclusively like on HBO, if I'm not mistaken.
This was a TV movie,
but wouldn't it count with the new rules?
I have no idea. I don't know. I mean,
think it does.
If it had an original theatrical release, if it didn't, then no.
Yeah, that's a good question. It might have. I mean, if anything, it could have. I think it might have. I might be wrong.
I might be wrong.
Her name is Geraldine Viswanson.
She was also great. Speaking of her again, she was great in blockers.
Yeah, blockers. Yeah,
blockers. I said the whole thing, and I was like, oh, well, I don't know about that.
But they put the little chicken in the logo, so it's tough to not say that part. Yeah, she's good. She was great.
Yeah, she's obviously one of the standouts in the film, and I just like the weird thread of how insane this movie goes, and I like how it's kind of self-aware, because every time you have a very dramatic, crazy, almost depressing moment, you hear the score just barges in. I don't know if you guys noticed that, like literally when he got arrested, the score is all of a sudden like the choir singing like, oh, and I was like, what? That was kind of funny because in a way it's weird. It's like a weirdly comedic tone between super serious and at the same time it's almost satirical because of how ridiculous the story is. The fact that not only were they taking money from the school, but he had like this side relationship with this guy in Las Vegas. He had this secret marriage that no one knew about. He had a different home in Las Vegas. He had plastic surgery. Like the story was just getting more and more ridiculous to the point that I was like, this is kind of funny. Sadly funny, but it's funny. But I love that the entire premise of this movie is pushed by this character that Hugh Jackman plays, literally telling the school reporter to push harder and to succeed, which is kind of how the movie starts, right? It's like, we're this filthy rich school that always wants to be the best. And we get people to Harvard, we get people to all these great schools. And his little inspiring speech to that girl pushed her to reveal him to be like this megalomaniac supervillain. And I thought that was incredible. I love that connection.
It really is crazy. He was the cause of his own downfall without even realizing it, the way he pushed all of them. And also I think that's a cool aspect is like what you said with the score, when like the choir, all those dramatic moments, even when the rest of the school, when that kind of like article comes out and the other staff members, he walks into the room and they all have the paper and they're all kind of staring at him. And again, that choir score kind of like comes in, and it really is like this like epic like fall from grace basically for this character that's in the beginning. We're introduced to him and he's like very charismatic, it's Hugh Jackman. It's Hugh Jackman playing a charismatic man, so he plays it well. And it really is insane how he was the cause of his own downfall, and how like the score and everything further pushes that in and does make it funny. As you said, it's a satire 100%. And yeah, so I was really entertained.
I think the biggest acting moment, and obviously we talk about how great this cast was Allison Jenny when they tell her that she has to retire. And obviously this is what everyone's talking about when it comes to this movie. It's that scene as the tears slowly well up inside her eyes. I don't know if you guys caught that, but I was like, oh man. And it's crazy, right? Because she did take money from the school. It wasn't just her son, because throughout that first scene, we're giving just enough information to know that her son did take money from the school, but we don't know if it was a mistake. We don't know if that's something he didn't tell his mom about. And then later when she comes home, we find out that, oh no, she's been doing it for years. So she is kind of a villain. And I was like, oh, that's such an interesting way to make reveals, because you want to sympathize with her when she's crying. And then later we find out she's like, oh no, I'm crying because I lost all my money. And she's a selfish rich woman who wants to stay rich. And it's I don't know, I just like that balance of the way they reveal villains, right? Because Hugh Jackman is our centerpiece character. He's the protagonist, and we don't really see him as a villain until the scene with the bench. I don't know if you guys caught that, when he's talking to Geraldine's character on the bench and threatening her. And that's when we find out, oh no, this guy is like really effed up. He's kind of bad news. But we don't get that until like an hour and a half in the movie, or an hour and 20 in the movie. Which
I was gonna say that's like a third act. That's like a third act moment right there.
And we don't get that little villainous monologue that he gives to her about threatening her essentially until that scene. And I was like, that's such an interesting way, because we almost want to sympathize with this guy who wants to hide his relationship. We're like, oh, that sucks, man. Like, you know, different times, you know, 2005 or 2004. Whatever they say it was. And we want to sympathize with him, but they give us more and more reason as the film goes on. I just thought that was such an interesting way to do it. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, RB3.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, they it was the slow drip was a fun way to reveal the information, but I also think kind of from the beginning, you could kind of read that there's like a vibe off about, a lot of these characters. As perfect of a superintendent that he was, nobody's perfect. So you kind of had that. You always kind of were looking over your shoulder with that character anyway. But Hugh Jackman's acting is just really good in this. I mean, like you said, Sabrina, I'm glad he's not playing Wolverine anymore, because he looks. I don't want to see like that Wolverine shred body playing this character, because that just isn't as real. Like this dude, and I loved how Hugh Jackman kind of like played like the skinny dude who kept getting these facelifts, and I thought, for me, like my favorite moment, and there's a lot of great moments of acting from him, but my favorite moment is towards the end when a parent brings in like a little kid to his office, and she's like, can you please let him into this program? And he goes on like this long monologue about like a truck and a center block, which is also a really funny detail, because if you go back earlier in the movie when Jimmy Taffer's character is doing the Ace Hardware drives, and he's picking up all this stuff, and there's a small like little detail, like when he pulls his truck up to like one of the parking lots, a cinder block falls off of the truck, and that's kind of like an indication of like, that's like foreshadowing, like the cinder block is like the beginning of the end, right? Like, and but yeah, I thought overall it was really I thought like I said before, I thought it was really, really funny, good satire, and like I read a line about how the person who was based on thought a lot of it was inaccurate, but a lot of his inaccuracy problems were more of like the personal details about like his romance and his relationships and all that kind of stuff. Like he was very open. Apparently in real life, he was very open about like his love life and stuff like that. But I mean, beyond that, that's just more for dramatic tension for changing, for making those changes.
Stole like millions of dollars.
Yeah, and I think that's
kind of a piece of crap.
Yeah. It's funny going after a movie that so defames your character as a superintendent who stole his money, and any accuracies he points to is like, I did have an open marriage like the entire time. Yeah, so it is kind of funny, but yeah, it's brilliant satire, and I think, like you said, the music played into it. The way it was kind of shot, it was shot in like almost like a jury, like kind of Fincher-esque kind of way, like that made you almost feel like it was something like The Social Network or a lot of these other like business espionage, or like a Soderbergh movie too, like a Steven Soderbergh movie is shot in a lot of those ways too. But the kind of heightened comedic value and the way like the actors tread the line between being funny but serious, but over the top but not too over the top, it all played into his tone really, really well. So yeah, I hope it gets all the accolades it deserves.
The thing is, it's interesting because, yeah, as you said, it was very like Fincher-esque, and like the characters, they're witty and they're smart and they're intelligent, the way we've seen it in films like that. But to answer your guys' question about kind of like where it stands, so it did premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival. From what I'm seeing, it didn't have a planned theatrical release, but it premiered last year, so September 8th, 2019.
Okay.
At TIFF. And then it didn't have like a planned theatrical release from what I know. And then it came on HBO, so I don't think I don't think it would be counted for like an Oscar contention. But I something like this, I think, would have breezed through the Oscars. I think that would have been really cool. I think, first of all, these performances, Allison Jenny, Hugh Jackman, as you guys said, Alex Wolff, Ray Romano is somebody we haven't mentioned yet. Ray Romano shined. I love Ray Romano in these types of roles. I'm really excited about like everything he's been doing in the past few years with stuff like The Big Sick, things like that. I really look forward to like what he chooses to go on in his career.
My final shout out, because we give a shout out to all these cast members, is Raphael Cassell playing the side interest. I don't know what to call him. Hugh Jackman, because I saw him for the first time ever in a movie called Blind Spotting that came out, I believe, either last year or the year before. And he was, have you guys seen Blind Spotting?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, most definitely.
He plays a gangster, and he's so convincing as this white thug who's like a thug, where you're just like, oh, this guy would shoot me. And here he's completely different. And his transformation to me really stood out, because I was like, wait a minute, that's the gangster guy from Blind Spotting. And here he's completely different. I thought he was great as well. And my final thing is my favorite scene, which is actually a serious scene in the movie. It's that conversation that the school reporter has with her father, talking about right and wrong, right? Because it's the idea of snitching, right? Of like snitching being wrong, or the idea of it's like, if it's a little bit, it's not that bad. I thought it was a fascinating conversation, the way he worded it. He's like, yeah, these guys have families. These guys have kids. They're probably good people. They're definitely good people. They help more people than they hurt, but they did something that was wrong, and I should have spoke up. And it's that conversation that leads her to kind of pursue this news and this report that she's doing on Hugh Jackman's character. And I was like, wow, that's such an interesting way to word it. The idea of a crime hurting people, and you still need to have consequences for that. And that's Hugh Jackman's character in a nutshell. And I love that conversation.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one of the standout moments. And again, it goes to show like the acting prowess that's going on throughout this entire thing, you know. And going back to Emmy talk, I looked on before coming on. I saw on Gold Derby and on IndieWire that it's not only the lead. Well, it's kind of the lead for best TV movie. It's also competing with El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie. But what was seemingly certain is that Hugh Jackman is the lead of the conversation when it comes to best actor when it, you know, in that category. So I'm hoping that, you know, potentially it does land a lot of rewards, and it lands a lot of attention that's like really well deserved. Because I think honestly, without the cast and without like the anchoring kind of presence that a lot of these people like bring, I don't think it would have been as successful otherwise.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite streaming movies for sure. Sabrina?
It's really crazy because I had heard about it a little bit. I've seen a little bit about it, but I hadn't heard a lot of the praise and things like that until you introduced it to us, Andres. Like, you suggested it for us to review. And I'm really happy I got to check it out. Like, I talked about Bombshell last year, which is a similar type of feel, but this one is such a better version of something like that. Like I talked about how Bombshell felt like it was a made-for-TV movie, and that was a criticism of Bombshell. But this one is like a great example of a great made-for-TV movie, and like how this thing kind of stands out. And yeah, so it's really interesting, especially just like all of it. And my favorite scene, because you guys talked about your favorite scenes, mine was actually what followed Allison Jenny when she was like forced to resign, basically her interaction with her family. And when we kind of have everything just falling apart all at once, that one really, really got me. That was the first time in the movie, I enjoyed all of it, but that was the first time I was like, oh crap, like stuff is about to go down. So that was like the turning point for me.
Right.
Yeah, if anything, I was with her throughout that entire conversation. Yeah. I'm sorry for your boy RB3, but I was like, yeah, throw him out. He needs to be thrown out. My God, this guy's privileged.
Yeah,
like what a spoiled brat.
Well, all of them were.
He tried.
Family.
Yeah, but he spent like, what is it, $250,000 on like wood? What? Like, you got to be a special type of dumb to do that. And I was like, bro, that's like some real spoiled brat type that needs to be thrown out of the house. But either way, guys, that is our thoughts on Bad Education. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Have you seen this movie? Will you see this movie based off this review? Hopefully. I think all three of us recommend it. We're pretty much giving it high praise. But either way, guys, for the First Cut crew, I'm Andres.
This is RB3.
I'm Sabrina.
And we're peacing out. Peace out, guys.
Frank's gonna fix this.